Hi loves, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I make new videos every single week and I have so many fun videos coming up for you guys, so make sure if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on my bell notifications so you don't miss a thing. I did that all in one breath. So my friend recently got me obsessed with My Hero Academia. So I watched the first 2 seasons of this when I was in high school. I watched it with like a big group of my friends and I don't know how I just forgot about it for some reason, but I did. I was really busy. I just didn't have time to watch it and keep up with it. But a couple months ago, my friend reached out to me and asked me to watch it with her, and now I'm obsessed. It's literally all I can think about. I dream about it. I literally had a dream last night about it. It's definitely an obsession at this point. So what's a great way to deal with that obsession? Make a video that no one asked for about it. It's me time, okay? I can talk about what I want. I actually have done a video kind of like this on my channel before, where I ranked all the emo bands I used to listen to in high school. So if you want to watch that, I'll leave it up here in the description box below for you to check out if you're interested. But that's kind of what I'm going to be doing today. I am going to be ranking the superpowers or quirks of some of the characters from the show. Since there are so many characters in the show, I think I'm only going to do the students from class 1A in this video. So if you guys end up liking this video and you want me to do a part 2, I'm totally down to do it. Just give this video a thumbs up so I know you're interested, because seriously, I would be more than happy to make another one of these videos. I do want to give a general spoiler warning for character and quirk development. At this point in time, I've seen up to season 4, but I think season 5 actually comes out the day after I post this video. So if you are seeing this after you've already watched season 5 and there's been like character development that I don't know about, I'm sorry, I'm just doing this based on the information I have at the current moment. And if you haven't seen the show up to the point where I have and you don't want any spoilers, you can totally save this video for later and watch it when you get caught up. So for those of you who haven't seen the show, or you just want a little bit of an overview of what it's about, I am just going to do a quick little recap of that. So if you don't want to hear the speech again for the millionth time, just skip ahead 30 seconds. Okay, so My Hero Academia, or Boku no Hero Academia, is kind of like a dystopian future type thing where 80% of the population has developed some sort of unnatural superpower called quirks. And in this world, there are heroes and villains. The show follows the main character called Izuku Midoriya, or Deku, who is actually born quirkless. Izuku meets his childhood idol and #1 hero, All Might, who asks him to inherit his quirk, making him destined to become the world's next symbol of peace. The rest of the show follows his personal growth and how he adapts and trains this power on his journey to become the greatest hero of all time. So yeah, now that you kind of know the gist, let's get into my tier list of My Hero Academia quirks from class 1A. So let's go over the categories I'm going to be putting our characters into. Our top tier, of course, is Plus Ultra. These are the characters I think they're literally just the best of the best. They have an amazing quirk, they have almost if not complete control over it, and I think they're just the elites of the hero society in my opinion. Our next category is our pro heroes. These are the characters I think they have a pretty great quirk, and they have a decent amount of control over it, but there's going to be something that sets Plus Ultra apart from the pro heroes. Next, we have our sidekicks. And I don't mean this in a bad way to the characters I put in here, I just feel like they could benefit from having another person accompany them, as I feel like their quirks are great, but they either have some weaknesses or I think their fighting styles are really complementary to other people. And then our next category is helpful but not hero worthy. The characters I put in this category have a pretty average quirk that could be useful in everyday life, but as far as fighting villains, I don't feel like it could get them that far. Next category is it depends on the situation. Pretty self-explanatory there. And our last category is kinda useless. I'm not saying the character is useless because I have a special place in my heart for every single character in the show. Okay, you know what? I have an exception. But I'm talking about how their quirk would kind of be useless in fighting against huge villains. So yeah, let's get into our list. Warning ahead of time, I'm not very good at memory and or reading, so if I pronounce any of the characters' names wrong, I'm sorry, I really am trying my best. So I'm gonna go in order of seating chart, which means we are starting off with Yuga Aoyama. I told you it's bad. Yuga Aoyama. His quirk is Navel Laser. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's a laser you can shoot out of your belly button, but he's in extreme pain if he uses it for more than a few seconds. Now, this quirk sounds pretty useful, but the drawbacks of it I feel like are really intense, especially since he said in the show his body isn't really designed to handle that kind of quirk, and he suffers a lot of medical issues due to it, and without his belt, he really can't control it at all. However, I think his personality is hilarious. He is literally the definition of star power. He's sassy, he's stylish, like come on, the glasses, are you kidding? I think he would be a really popular hero if his quirk was more useful to him. And I also think if there was some way to store the laser power up over time and shoot it without actually activating his quirk, kind of like how Bakugo's gauntlets work, that might make me rethink how I feel about it. But I think just because of how painful it is for him and how much it takes out of him to actually use it, I am going to put his quirk in kinda useless. Next, we have Mina Ashido. Her quirk is acid. She can produce an acid strong enough to melt through most objects. Now, I think this quirk isn't really that useful in hand-to-hand combat, as you're really not supposed to injure anybody too seriously, so I'm assuming that acid use on the skin is out of question. But the more I see other people's quirks, the more uses I see in it. Because listen, if she's ever tied up, she could just burn through it. If she's ever in a cage, she could just burn through it. If there's a natural disaster, she can burn through the wreckage and save people. Also, if she's up against somebody whose quirk is the ability to create things, she can most likely burn through whatever they can make. I think it's a really versatile quirk, but I think as far as hand-to-hand combat goes, she's still at a bit of a disadvantage, which is why I think she would benefit from having another person at her side to help with those closer range attacks, so I'm gonna put her in sidekick. Next we have Suyu Asuwee. Her quirk is frog. She can essentially do anything a frog can. I don't know why I like her so much. She's just such a likable character to me. I think personality-wise, she would be an amazing hero, but I think her quirk is really only useful situationally. She even said that she couldn't be anywhere too hot or cold because her body will shut down, so the only place I can see her quirk being an advantage for her is by the water, and if her enemies know the drawbacks of her quirk, it's going to be really easy to win against her if they play into her weaknesses. I do think that her ability to jump and grab things far away with her tongue has been really useful in fights thus far, but I don't know, I think there's too many things that are just disadvantages for her, so I think I'm going to put her quirk in it depends on the situation. Next we have Tenuita. His quirk is engine. He has engines on the back of his calves that he can use to propel himself forward or kick things really hard with, but if he uses it too much, his engines can overheat and stall. I think there are so many things he can do with this quirk. And I mean, his brother had the same quirk and was an amazing pro hero, so we know that that quirk has the potential to do that. I don't know why I don't think it's like the best power to have though. I think if he utilized it a little bit more and was able to jump off of walls and stuff, giving him that height advantage as well, I think it would be a real advantage for him. But I don't know, the way he uses it seems a bit limited to me. That might change in the future, but that's just my take on it now. I do think his ultimate move was a great use of it. I didn't even think about him using that power in that way, as he's only ever used it for speed up until that point. Also, he's a natural leader. He can get people to listen to him, and he's also very reassuring for those under stress. So I think that would make him a great hero. I'm gonna put him in pro hero. Okay, next we have Ochako Uraka. Her quirk is zero gravity. She can nullify the gravitational pull of anything she touches, but the drawback is it makes her super nauseous. This power is so versatile, and also like Ida, she was able to use it in ways I didn't even think were possible. Additionally, she has really good battle planning skills. I think where we saw this best was in the sports festival where she was up against Bakugo, and she was able to take a number of physical attacks while also constantly using her quirk to hold hundreds of pounds of cement in the air. Also, she's able to lift literally anybody she wants to up in the air, that includes herself, and I think that in and of itself is a really impressive power to have. So I think having said all that, I think I'm gonna put her in pro hero. Alright, next we have Mashiro Ojiro. His quirk is tail. I mean, it's a tail. He can use it to break objects or boost himself forward while running. Okay, sorry, my battery died. It's charging. That's what that is. Okay, I'm so sorry. I think this is just an awful quirk. I mean, my dogs have tails. Is it a superpower? The way he uses it is basically just like another arm or leg, so the only reason that I think he's great is his martial arts skills, and he kind of works some tail moves into that and stuff, but like, if we're judging him solely based on his quirk, I mean, it's really not a superpower in comparison to the other kids in the class. I feel bad, but I'm gonna put him in kind of useless. Next, we have Denki Kaminari. His quirk is electrification. He can create up to 2 million volts of electricity from his body at one time, but if he uses it too much, he fries his brain and becomes really stupid for a while. I think this is so helpful in everyday life as well as fighting villains. Throughout the show, he's basically everyone's personal phone charger. His body works as a human stun gun. It would be really helpful to have him around during like a power outage or something, as he could just power the whole city or like charge batteries for that. Also, I feel like this power makes it really easy to knock people out with. I mean, I think the drawback sucks. It's a huge disadvantage. But if all of your enemies are knocked out anyway, I mean, being a huge airhead doesn't seem like that bad. Also, his new like concentrated attack style is really useful, and I think this is just an amazing quirk, but I don't know whether to put him in plus ultra or pro hero. I think I'm gonna put him in plus ultra. Next, we have Adro Kirishima. His quirk is hardening. This power makes his entire body hard as a rock, which makes him the ultimate shield or a devastating weapon. I think this quirk is super powerful. I mean, he can literally repel bullets. If he's crushed by thousands of pounds of metal, he doesn't even walk away with a scratch on him, but he doesn't really have a way to do long distance attacks, so I think the benefits to this quirk are situational. Also, a downfall to this is when going up against certain people like Tetsu or Rappa, where their strengths are either the same or he's overpowered, and also there's a limit to even what his unbreakable form can take. However, I think his personality and ability to relate to and talk down villains is a huge advantage to him, which I know isn't like quirk superpower, but it's still like a human superpower. He really would make an incredible incredible hero, but quirk-wise, I think the best way to utilize it would be to have another person with him, so I'm gonna put him in sidekick. Next, we have Koji Koda. His quirk is Ana voice. He can talk to and control any animal or insect with his voice. I think there are so many different ways to utilize this quirk, but only if you're in a place with animals, which really isn't a whole lot of places. You wouldn't be able to fight indoors unless you took the animals with you, and I mean, they're animals. You can't rely on them to be quiet, so a sneak attack is out of the question. But I love how he used it against Present Mike in like the battle against the teachers, and even though Koda's scared of insects, he asked them very nicely to crawl over Mike and scare him so that they could get past him, and I think that was the perfect use of that quirk in the situation. I'm curious or not to know whether his quirk would work on Principal Nezu or not. Let me know your thoughts, because I think it would. I think this power in general is pretty cool, but combat-wise, I'm not really sure it would be that good, so I'm gonna put him in helpful but not hero-worthy. Next, we have Rikido Sato. His quirk is Sugar Rush. For every 10 grams of sugar he consumes, he is 5 times as strong for 3 minutes. But the more sugar he uses up, the more his cognitive function suffers. I think this is a super useful quirk. Also, the fact that he's good at baking to support it is really fun, but the drawback for this is huge. Most fights aren't gonna last 3 minutes, and if you need to think fast and you're not able to, you're a liability. Additionally, he has to carry sugar or something with sugar on him at all times, and if his opponents know that that's his weakness, they're gonna try and take that from him first. But as far as the actual quirk goes, he does have an immense amount of physical power that he can use to fight against like people hand to hand, but only at close range, which again has drawbacks in and of itself. I don't think he would be a good sidekick because, again, like I said, he would be a liability by burning out and losing the ability to think properly. And do I think it would be useful in everyday life? Not really. The only thing I can think of that would require that power is like a job where you lift heavy things, and I mean, you need to think clearly for a job, and you would need to keep your quirk active all day, not just 3 minutes. So as far as everyday use, I really don't see how it would be that helpful. Overall, I think the drawbacks of his quirk really outweigh the positives, so I think I'm gonna put him in kinda useless. Next is Meizo Shoji. His quirk is Dupla Arms. He has 6 arms that can replicate different body parts on the ends of them. Since he's able to create eyes and ears out of it, it really gives him an advantage when predicting enemies' movements or collecting information, and when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, he can use his arms to shield him or fight back. Additionally, I think from what we've seen of him so far, he's able to think and react quickly, and he's also able to hold his own. There aren't really many drawbacks to this other than having 6 arms all the time, which I mean, he doesn't seem to mind. So I mean, it's a pretty solid quirk. I don't know if he would be a great pro hero though, because some of these villains have really scary powers, and I think he might be in over his head if he was just fighting alone. So having said that, I think he would really benefit from having another hero with him, so I am gonna put him in sidekick. Next we have Kyoko Jiro. Her quirk is Earphone Jack. She has these fun little earphone jacks that come out of her ears, which give her the ability to hear really well, and she can also use them to amplify her own heartbeat to immobilize her targets. This is another one that's so versatile. She can collect information using her hearing. It also gives her the ability to hear people coming and anticipate attacks, and she can really use that to her advantage. Also, using it to amplify sounds is incredibly useful and not something I would have even thought of, but since the speakers she uses aren't part of her actual quirk, villains who know how it works are going to take advantage of that and target it first thing, which would take away her advantage and leave it up to hand-to-hand combat. Something that I don't think her quirk would be that useful for, unless she like poked their eyes out or something. I don't know. I don't see it as being that useful, but the ability to anticipate attacks and gather information would make her an amazing sidekick, so yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put her there. Next we have Hantasaro. His quirk is Tape. He can shoot tape out of the ends of his elbows. When I first saw this, I thought it was so useless. I was like, what is the point in that? But the more I saw him use it, the more I was rooting for him. He can use it to fly himself through the air, and he can also use it at close range to immobilize people. I don't know if there are really any disadvantages to this, as he can just detach the tape if it gets tangled, and it seems as though he has some sort of control over the tape itself, and I don't know, I think this is such a good quirk for some reason. Also, I love his hero costume. He literally looks like a tape dispenser. It is my favorite character design in the entire show. I literally laughed out loud the first time I saw it. So yeah, I just love him. I'm gonna put him in pro hero. Next we have Fumagake Tokoyami. His quirk is Dark Shadow. He controls a powerful shadow monster called Dark Shadow. The drawback is that Dark Shadow is really timid in bright lights and uncontrollable in the dark. I think in the right lighting, this has the potential to be like so powerful, because not only is it a separate being from him, but it also doesn't seem to really take damage and is completely obedient to him. Also is great for long distance attacks and close range. From far away, he can have it attack the villain or have it intercept any attacks to his actual body, and at close range he uses it as more of like a protective shield over him and sort of uses it to complement his own attack style. It's such an incredible power, but let's talk about the drawbacks. Whenever they're in bright light, it becomes really timid and won't respond to orders anymore, but on the contrast, if they're in a dark room, it becomes uncontrollable and can even become a danger itself. I also think it must be really hard relying on this outside source as your power, because you have to be so careful of your location and your influence over it and keep it in check. I really want to put him in pro hero, but I'm not sure. Maybe he would be better as a sidekick. I think he'll hopefully gain more power over Dark Shadow in the future, so I think for now I'm going to put him in sidekick with the potential to move up to pro hero. Next we have Shoto Todoroki. His quirk is half hot, half cold. He can create ice using his right side and fire using his left. Todoroki's my favorite character. I love him so much. I think his quirk is pretty much perfect. Like any drawbacks of one, he can just fix using the other. When using his ice side, his body temperature drops significantly, and if that was his only quirk, he would have to stop using it. But since he has his fire side, he can just use that to bring his body temperature back up to normal. And the same thing goes for his fire side. If his body temperature rises too high, he can just use that to cool himself back down. Also, the amount of power he has is incredible. He's able to freeze or ignite things for miles in every direction. Everything about his power is so elite that there's really nothing bad I can say about it at all. It's that good. So obviously I'm going to put him in plus ultra. Next we have Toro Hakakore. Her quirk is invisibility. She's just like invisible all the time. I think that this can be really useful in gathering information as no one really knows you're there. Also, you can escape really easily as well. And when fighting somebody at close range, them not being able to see you is a huge advantage as they can't predict your moves or see your attacks coming. As far as long range attacks go, I don't really see many benefits to this other than stealth, I guess, but you are kind of prone to injury in larger scale attacks as other pro heroes can't see you. So if they don't know where you are, you can very easily get caught up in their attacks. Also, if she's injured or lost, no one could ever find her because she's literally invisible. Unless somebody like trips over her, like they're not gonna know she's there. I'm kind of torn between pro hero and sidekick, and I think there's just so many drawbacks to that. I'm gonna have to put her in sidekick. Next we have Kasuki Bakugo. His quirk is explosion. He sweats a nitroglycerin-like substance off of his hands, and he can ignite it on command, causing an explosion. The quirk itself kind of sounds a bit limiting, but the way he uses it is incredible. It's not only great for hand-to-hand combat, but he can make explosions so powerful they can count as long-distance attacks. He can also use smaller explosions to kind of like boost himself and fly through the air. He can turn himself into a human missile, and he can store up the sweat in these gauntlets, making them essentially into a gigantic bomb outside of his body, so even if his quirk is disabled, he can still use them. I really think it's one of the best powers to have in that universe, the way he uses it. But listen, rescue is also part of hero work. He doesn't really have much empathy for people, and he comes off as kind of rude. So I mean, like, talking to civilians is something that I don't feel like he would be very good at. I think he'll probably chill out eventually, so I'm not going to judge him based on that. But as far as drawbacks for this go, I can't really think of any, at least right now. I mean, I'm sure the explosions probably like have an effect on his hearing, and maybe he has some sort of like hearing protection built into his hero costume, but I mean, it hasn't been mentioned, so I don't know, maybe it just doesn't affect him. But other than that, it's just so powerful. I couldn't not put him in plus ultra, so that's where he's going. Next we have Izuku Midoriya, or Deku. His quirk is one for all. His quirk is inherited from the number one hero, All Might. It essentially gives its users an immense amount of physical power, and it gets stronger the more people that have used it, and he is the 9th user of this quirk. Since he wasn't born with this power, his body took a really long time trying to get adjusted to it, and in doing that, he's had some pretty bad injuries. They were actually so bad that if he injures his arms 2 or 3 more times, he will never be able to use them again, and that is a huge setback, especially as a hero. He will have to be so careful with that for the rest of his life, but hopefully with the new equipment, it'll be a little bit easier on his body, and I think he'll get better at that, so I'm not gonna weigh it too heavily in this decision. He can use this power in hand-to-hand combat or at long range. Also, since this is a power type quirk, he can really rely on himself in like very dangerous situations, and that's kind of what his quirk is used best for. He also has so much determination going into every single fight, and he never gives up, which is kind of the definition of being a hero. Also, the fact that he's utilized his legs now to make extreme kicks and propel himself through the air, kind of flying and dodging attacks, is an amazing way to adjust to that. He's also very good with quick decisions, predicting attack styles and adjusting to it so that he kind of gets an advantage using that. And yeah, that just really sets him apart. So obviously I'm going to put Deku in plus ultra. Next we have Menorah Mineta. His quirk is pop off. He can produce these super sticky orbs from his head and use it to throw at enemies to trap and immobilize them. I mean, setting aside how absolutely annoying I think he is and looking at him objectively, I think his quirk can be useful in some situations. Kind of like how he used it in the disaster area, where he threw a ton of them into a circle of villains and they all got stuck together. A drawback to this is that they make his head bleed, and also he's a scaredy cat. I just don't see how it would be helpful in hand-to-hand combat either. Also, since he's shorter, they have easy access to his head, so they could just cover it and he would have to rely solely on like fighting skills, and he obviously doesn't have much of that. Also, he's just awful. If I was in a burning building and I was in need of rescue and Menorah Mineta came to save me, I would let the flames consume me. So having said all that, I'm gonna put him in kinda useless. And finally, we have Momo Yagurozu. Her quirk is creation. She can create any non-living object she wants to, but she can only do it if she knows the molecular structure of what she's building. This power is so underestimated. I mean, she can make pretty much anything, which gives her the advantage of physical weapons. Also, she has the ability to make specialized objects to target her opponent's weaknesses, like when her and Todoroki were facing Mr. Aizawa, and she knew he couldn't use his erasure if he wasn't looking at them or like couldn't see them, so she decided to make flash bombs, making his power completely useless for a really long time, which gave her enough time to replace his scarf and alter it to trap him. There's just truly so many things she can do with it. She can also use this to make supplies in case of an emergency, or things to protect herself and others. The only like downside is that she just needs to get enough food, so I guess the only downside is carrying food on you, and if somebody knows how that works, they could just easily take it from you. But I think she's really one of the most underrated characters in the show, and I think her quirk is plus ultra, so yeah, I'm gonna put her there. Okay, so let's go over our list. In plus ultra, we have Denki Kaminari, Shoto Todoroki, Kasuki Bakugo, Izuku Midoriya, and Momo Yagurozu. In our pro heroes, we have Tenuita, Ochako Uraka, and Hantasaro. In our sidekick category, we have Mina Ashido, Adro Kirishima, Meizo Shoji, Kyoko Jiro, Fumagake Tokoyami, and Toro Hakakore. In helpful but not hero-worthy, we have Koji Koda. In It Depends on the Situation, we have Suyu Asuwee. And in kinda useless, we have Aoyama, Mashiro, Rikido Sato, and Menorah Mineta. So that was my tier list for My Hero Academia Class 1A quirks. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see a part 2 with some of the other characters, let me know by giving this video a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on my bell notifications so you know when I post. Stay safe, stay healthy, make good choices, and I will see you guys next week. Bye guys.